Hi folks, welcome back and thanks for joining. Today we're going to make cold process porcelain, but we're going to do it just a little bit differently. And in so doing, we're going to enhance some of its properties. It's going to have incredible flexibility and it's going to have minimal shrinkage. Now I've reformulated this to eliminate the PVA. The PVA was causing a considerable amount of shrinkage along with water. Any kind of solvent, once it evaporates, that volume is gone, so therefore your article will become smaller. So there is another couple of issues with the PVA that inspired me to reformulate this. One is that PVA is made from oil, and here at GEO-sustainable we seek to eliminate as many products as possible that are made from oil, so that's gone. What we're going to use is glycerin. Now, the shrinkage problem, we're not going to use any water either. We're going to use cornstarch, we're going to use household vinegar, and we're going to use glycerin. And glycerin is made from vegetables. So, a 100% sustainable cold process porcelain with improved properties is what we're going to have at the end of this. So let's get started. And here's a close-up of it. Plenty of flexibility. And if you can peer down inside that ring, you can see minimal shrinkage. All right, so let's get to making it. All right, well, the first thing I want to do is I want to pop a half a cup of cornstarch into a pot here. And to that, I am going to add 1/8 cup of vinegar. So I need 2 of these. Now for the techie folks out there, what I've just done is cornstarch is a polymer. It's basically a biodegradable plastic, and it contains 2 types of polymers. It contains an amylopectin and an amylose. Now, the reason we're adding the vinegar to it is the amylopectin is a long branch chain polymer just like the amylose. However, amylopectin, if you can imagine, is something like a hairy polymer chain, so that when we add the vinegar, what we're doing is we're sort of burning off the little hairs so that we can make a more closely bound polymer. Now that's going to introduce a problem that we're going to solve in just a little bit. As you can see, it doesn't take much. It won't even completely solute until we add our next ingredient. And the next ingredient is going to be glycerin. So now that we've burned off the hairs on the polymer, they will reform very tightly packed. And that's going to make a very brittle plastic. So we're adding the glycerin as sort of a lubricant between the polymer chains. And that's going to eliminate that problem. And I almost made a mistake and added too much glycerin. What you want is 1/4 cup of glycerin, and that's all there is to it. Now, being we are using all sustainable ingredients, of course, critters may like it, so let's let's use our little bit of thymol here so that they don't like it anymore. And it just takes just a few drops. That's all it takes. Not appetizing to the critters anymore. We're going to begin heating this, and we'll need to get it pretty hot. And while it's heating, I'm going to stir this up so that I can use the glycerin to help the vinegar get to the cornstarch. And it won't take long, even before it gets hot, for it to become, I would say, a very white, not terribly thick solution. And you will see once the glycerin becomes incorporated. There we go. It seemed impossible for a moment, and it will, but just stick with it, and after a minute, it's just a milky white liquid. All right, and in less time than it takes to shake a stick, this will begin to turn into a translucent clay-like material that we're going to roll out onto my little Teflon sheet here. Now, for the younger folks here, the term shake a stick was actually a relevant unit of measure in my day. And it had many variations, but the time that it takes to shake a stick, my generation would know that meant that you had to actually go outside and cut it off the bush. So that didn't take very long, now did it? And there's your history lesson from me today. And while this is cooking, you will want to continue to stir constantly. Don't leave it or it will burn. And you see how it takes up very quickly. And I like to push the limit on the cooking part of it because I do like to eliminate any water at all as much as I possibly can, because of course there's water in the vinegar, and glycerin loves water, so it absorbs it from the air and moisture. So there's still a little bit of water in here, and water causes shrinkage, as we know. So I push the limit on the cooking. My hot plate is noisy. A very quick note, you may see some clumps of white powder in there. That's the cornstarch. I did this quickly, but when you're making your medium, you may want to sift your cornstarch through a mesh strainer. Okay, and it's ready. I'm going to just plop it down in here. Let things cool down over here. Now I'm going to roll this out, but of course you can mold it however you want at this point. Now it's quite warm, so just be careful. And I'm using Teflon sheets here, and I have 2 sticks of equal size to use as spacers to give a uniform thickness to the sample that I am presenting to you folks today. You can air dry it. However, the faster that you dry this, the less shrinkage you're going to have. And this is how I gauge my shrinkage. I just plunge in a predictable ring that I know I have plenty of them. And once it's dried, I can calculate the size of the ring and subtract the size of the disc, and I have a percentage of shrinkage calculation. Alright, so there we have it. Cold Process Porcelain, reformulated to be 100% sustainable using cornstarch, household vinegar, and vegetable-based glycerin to give a wonderfully flexible, strong, resilient, artistic medium. Now, you can continue to manipulate this, and many of you will use the hand lotion to soften it and stretch it and pull it into your peaks. And you can do that with this just as well. However, hand lotion, okay, the number 2 ingredient in hand lotion is glycerin. So you can use your expensive hand lotions if you want, but I'm going to use glycerin. This stuff is $20 a gallon. And once I had finished playing with it, the glycerin that was left on my hands, I put it on my face to help diminish the wrinkles. Okay, now, some of you, there is a modest amount of shrinkage, and that will be a factor for you. So I'm going to leave you with some math very quickly so that you can calculate the percentage of shrinkage back into what you want, so that when your finished product is done, it's exactly where you want it to be. So we're just going to briefly go over some. I'm going to walk you right through it. Okay, let's assume you want an article that's 8 inches, but it ends up 6. So subtract 6. You end up with 2. Okay, now what's the percentage of shrinkage? We know it shrank 2 inches, but what's that percentage? Well, divide by your original number, which was 8. And you end up with 0.25. So you know your article is going to has shrank 25%. Now this is arbitrary. This doesn't do that. My ring is exactly 2 inches. If I had 25% shrinkage, how big would my ring need to be if I wanted my finished product to be exactly 2 inches? Well, plug in 2, multiply times the percentage of shrinkage that you had, which was 0.25, and I have 0.5. So I know that I need my ring to be 2.5 inches for my finished product to be spot on at 2. All right. I hope this has been helpful. And it's been a lot of fun to making this. And if you like what we're doing here, well, consider subscribing. There's a little green dot that's going to pop up. And we do have a Patreon account, and it's somewhere on my home page where the mountain view is. All right, thanks again for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.